Today, the global toy giant that is taking the world by storm, though there's a fair chance you haven't actually heard of it. I'm Michael Thompson from Fear and Greed Business News, and I'm joined by Stefan from Alt.co, the alternative market research that you need to be a better investor. Stefan, hello. Welcome back.
Good to see you, man.
Now, before we get started, obviously, none of this is financial advice or investing advice. This is a starting point for your research. And if you hear something that's relevant to you, then it's always a good idea to get professional advice before making investment decisions. Pop Mart. This is what we're talking about today. Have I been living under a rock or something? Where did this company come from? And how did it get to the size that it is without me being fully aware of it?
Well, there's a little country in the east. Not too many people have heard of it. It's called China, and a whole lot of stuff happens there. As it turns out that the Anglosphere doesn't usually pay attention to until things get really big. Well, Pop Mart is one of those things. It's starting to get extremely big, and people are definitely starting to notice. There's really nothing like this company in the Western world. The Western world has like the Mattel and Hasbro, and probably the closest thing to Pop Mart would be like Funko, right? The makers of Funko Pop. But Pop Mart's on a whole other scale. Just to put it in perspective, Funko has. Funko is basically 120 times less valuable than Pop Mart. 120 times less valuable.
Wow.
They have 3 stores. Pop Mart has thousands of stores. So it is really kind of like operating on a whole entirely different scale.
So let's rewind then. And for people like me, what exactly are they doing? What are they making? What is it about these products, these toys that is just so appealing?
Well, both, Funko and Pop Mart are in the business of basically making figurines, primarily vinyl figurines, right? So if you've seen a Funko Pop, it's just very lightweight, detailed, colorful. That's essentially what Pop Mart does, is toys, is vinyl and other, toys, figurines, collectibles. What Pop Mart has done differently, though, like where Funko Pop, their approach has always been to like license like crazy, right?
Yeah.
So that's expensive. That means you're paying a lot of licensing fees, and you're using existing IP. It'll sell well because it's recognizable, right? When you see recognizable figures, but it's not fundamentally yours. Pop Mart took the opposite approach. All of their stuff is created by them, so they own the IP. In fact, now that the characters are getting big, they're licensing that IP to other companies, and soon to be movies and TV shows and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's the fundamental difference, is that they own all of the characters. Now, you may not have heard of them. I certainly hadn't heard of them until recently. But they're IP characters. No different than Mickey Mouse or anything else.
This company, it only started, in 2010, I think it was. And it started just as a single store, listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2020. And here we are in 2025. And it's bigger than Mattel, bigger than Hasbro combined. I think that is spectacular growth.
It has been. They had an absolutely bonkers 2024. And it really was fueled by one particular toy, which is known as the Labubu doll. So Labubu dolls are kind of like, have you ever seen like Where the Wild Things Are? Ever read that book? Right? Like they kind of look like those kind of characters. They're kind of wild. They're kind of like ugly cute, as they call them. Well, these have taken off, especially online, with a lot of influencers and celebrities and endorsements. The most famous probably is Lisa from the K-pop band Blackpink, and also if you watch White Lotus.
I was going to say she had a starring role in that show.
Yeah, her star is getting very big, and so she's been a huge fan of Labubu dolls and has really promoted them on her Instagram and stuff like that. So this is what's fueling Pop Mart's net income, which surged 188%. In 2024, year over year. Labubu dolls are up 715% year over year. So they're kind of like the new global obsession for Gen Z and below.
I'm not surprised when you say that, because just even in recent days, right, there have been stories in Sydney, in Australia, where I live, and there are people queued around the block for a store in Sydney at the moment that is selling these Labubu dolls. And that was when I saw this name in recent days going, why are all these people queuing up? And it's because of the release of these, whether it's a new release or something. This is huge enthusiasm. Is there a risk though that it's just kind of a flash in the pan? Is this like as trends tend to do, they come and go? Is Pop Mart kind of banking too heavily on ongoing love for these things when it might only be a brief kind of fascination?
Well, I think if you're going to create characters and really that really stand the test of time, you've got to make sure that everyone knows who they are. And so Pop Mart's been doing this in a couple of ways. First, they have, like I said, way more stores than other traditional like toy companies, like way more than Funko, obviously. You also see them in a lot of vending machines in Asia. There's some in Melbourne actually as well. They're just Pop Mart vending machines, and like they're in like high traffic, high foot traffic, highly pedestrianized areas. So that helps the brand as well. But what's really going to prevent Pop Mart characters from, kind of turning into the next Hello Kitty or something like that is they've got to expand beyond just the toys. And that's what they're planning on doing is opening up to mass media. So that means TV, movies. That way people all around the world can really understand these characters, and the company can bring these characters to life and create something that's everlasting value as opposed to a flash in the pan.
Something else that they have going for them is the concept of blind boxes, and I think it is very, very clever. This idea that you don't know which toy you're actually going to get when you open it up. It is sealed from the outside. Nobody knows what it is until you get it, and so it is really preying on this idea that, hey, you might be getting the really rare one that is potentially going to be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a concept that's really big in Asia. It goes back to Japan in the 1800s, but basically, you're right. It's the idea of, you're basically getting a mystery pack. Some of the items in the pack won't be that valuable. Most will be pretty okay, and some could be spectacular. It's really no different from opening, a slab, of trading cards or whatever, right? So, but it's that sense of like mystery and like, it also plays really well to like social. Like, I'm not big on watching like the unboxing videos and stuff. But I mean, there are thousands of them of like people opening up the mystery boxes and seeing
I've seen them, and I haven't gone looking for them, but I have seen these videos of people opening up their blind boxes, and just the anticipation and the excitement. And God, I get drawn into it. I get sucked into it. So no wonder these things are taking off. And even my kids, it's not with the Pop Mart toys. There's some other ones, and a lot of these brands are doing it now. This idea of blind boxes, and it's actually kind of addictive.
It's definitely, look, I'm in the minority. I can't think of a worse way to spend 20 minutes than watching someone on YouTube open a package or a gift or whatever. But
No. I fast forward to the end. I'm like, come on. There we go. That's what's in it, and move on to the next one.
even the payoff isn't big for me. I personally could care less. But look, I'm in the minority here. I mean, this stuff is big. You're right, and there's you should definitely understand that if you're going to understand this company. It's a big part of what they do. The blind boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you mentioned that they have stores. They've also got vending machines. They are obviously very big in Asia. Are we seeing more stores opening in the US, Australia? Kind of what is the rollout kind of strategy, the retail strategy here for that? And is there a risk as well of kind of trying to go too hard, too fast into markets like Australia, where obviously if they're going to have dedicated stores, that's an expensive process?
I wouldn't worry about their ability to go too hard, too fast. I do think it's going to be a challenge, though, to enter the American market specifically. Just culturally, it's not, obviously, the brands aren't as strong, the characters aren't as strong yet. That takes time. I think that, Pop Mart is definitely serious about the market. They've added like hundreds of employees now that work in America. It's like LinkedIn is showing. They have 22 stores, 39 robo shops in California, New York. But it won't be easy. It won't be a cakewalk. Also, the tariffs kind of play into things a little bit. I don't pretend to know. Depending on the date of this recording, that could all change tomorrow. Who knows?
Absolutely, but you would think it as a current major challenge for them if they're importing goods from China, which is where these are developed, produced, manufactured.
It certainly won't make things easier, that's for sure.
Mm.
I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of exactly how it's going to affect things, but I think the bigger thing is kind of just more like the awareness. I mean, brands take time to develop, but again, I think what could really help is if they can get a couple of movies. Although those are getting tariff now too, so who knows? But if they can get some TV shows and movies and get them globally, that could really boost the character awareness and boost the sales.
Okay, so really it comes down to, well, it's really almost a marketing challenge for them then, isn't it? Just to actually get that name, that brand, those images. And if you, as you say, it is making the characters become part of people's lives. And since they own the IP, then that's their ticket to success.
Yeah, I mean, they may have already kind of like peaked in a way. Like they don't really need like the American market to just be a huge like thriving company for decades. So if they can't crack it, it's not like the company's going to blow up or go to zero or anything like that. But if they can crack it, yeah, I mean, it'll definitely put a dent in a lot of IP rather from Mattel and Hasbro and that, especially with the younger generation. And so that's why it's important to understand these new characters, who they are, and like kind of like what their personalities are and stuff like that, because they kind of do have competition in a way, right? For
Yeah.
eyeballs, for attention from younger generations. So it'll be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, last question, because I mean, I can't miss the opportunity to ask you about the secondary market. Kind of, assuming the expansion is successful into the US and other markets, even if it's not, kind of what's the value here? Is it in some of the rarity of the toys for the secondary market? Are people kind of buying and selling these things? If you do find a rare one, are you sitting on a gold mine? Kind of what's the opportunity here?
Yeah, there's definitely rare pieces, and there's definitely a scarcity element with some of the most in demand pieces. I mean, so like I wouldn't definitely consider this investment grade by any stretch, right? But if you are a collector and you are looking to add to your collection, there's definitely grails out there. Really, the first Wild Things Labubu dolls, those seem to be the ones that are garnering the highest prices on secondary markets. And a lot of it's like kind of hype driven too. There's a lot of trends and fads and stuff like that. But the stuff produced between 2006, 2012, maybe 2017 at the latest, the legacy kind of IP, those characters, they're holding the value quite well.
So basically, we can say if you haven't heard of Labubu dolls, if you are in the minority like I was, chances are you will be hearing about them very soon.
That's a safe bet. And hopefully you heard about them through us right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, to find out more, you can head to alts.co, sign up to the newsletter. This episode is based on an edition of that newsletter, and start learning about the future of alternative investing. Thank you very much, Stefan.
Thanks, Michael.
I'm Michael Thompson from Fear and Greed Business News for people who make their own decisions. Thanks for your company.